Hello, this is Jenny Fern, and today I'd like to share with you some of my weekend. This is footage from Saturday and Sunday, and I started off on Saturday reading a little bit in bed and then reading a little bit outside with a cup of tea. I've been reading The Heart of a Woman by Maya Angelou. To be honest, I picked this book up quite a while ago from a thrift store, and I really loved the cover. The colors in the cover are just beautiful to me. And I had never read, besides some readings in high school, I'd never read Maya Angelou, so I thought, hey, why not? And in this piece, she talks a little bit about her time initially in a writing group. Although there isn't a ton about that, there is a little bit about kind of giving really hard critique. And I feel like when I read other writers talk a little bit about some of their process, so it's kind of like when I read David Sedaris, he also talked a little bit about his writing process. And it always reminds me of, gently, that maybe I should pick up my own writing and do some work on my own writing process. And so that is what this inspired me to do. This book, with a combination of some of the work that I've been doing in the garden, kind of reminded me to do some writing. So on the garden side of things, last year in July, I wrote from a prompt list every day. I would do a piece of writing, and a lot of them were garden related or generally plant related. And at the time I was going through the stages of grief from the loss of my future mother-in-law, who I loved dearly and still do. So these kind of memories of really having this garden in full swing and it getting to be around that time again where I had been writing every single day, I thought about my writing goals that I set out for myself at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, I wanted to write from a prompt list once a week to complete a short piece of writing, either a short story or whatever I could get done every week. And then I bought a house and moved into a house, and that whole thing kind of fell by the wayside. Both my photography and writing projects for the year had kind of suffered. And so I picked up photography again, doing some photo every day for, I think, 35 days I did in the spring. And now I am just, again, starting to do some writing. So I was working off the prompt build. And when I first looked at this prompt months ago, I thought of building a flower box, and building a flower box and putting it under the window of my new house, basically, is where the idea came from. And when you're building this window box, you also have fairies building their homes in these flowers. That was my thought. And then I gave myself some time to think about it while I was in the garden on Saturday. And then I decided to write it by hand, just to get myself a little bit of time away from screens and computers, just because I do have a lot of screen time for my work. So I started writing, and it has definitely strayed away from the prompt to build, because now it's a little bit more about fairies. I took that element and I decided to run with it. So it's a little bit not what I was expecting to write, although there are some elements from my neighborhood that I've kind of brought in. And yeah, that was fun to do. And then for the next prompt, I haven't finished this piece yet. I need to figure out kind of where it's going, because at the current moment, I'm not sure how to wrap this up. The next prompt is in between, and I also have at least some sort of vague idea for what in between could be about. But I guess that maybe will come up in the next video. So I'm not sure if I'll be writing every day again, although that might be good for me. It might be good practice. And I generally had a really great time, and I learned a lot from it when I did it last year. And I ended up writing several short stories the month afterwards that, again, were just a great experience. And I really do enjoy writing. And right now, I have the second draft. I guess it's like the second and a half draft of my novel or novella, Long Distance. I have that in the works. But I've taken quite a long break from it because I changed some details of the inciting incident, and so I'll have to go back and do some more work on that. So now we're on to Sunday. On Sunday, I decided to go do some tidying up behind our fence. We have a plum tree, and we also have an apricot tree that kind of straddles the fence area. So I picked the apricots that were on that side, and now we have a ton. I've been drying apricots like nearly every day, and I think I'm going to make some apricot jam because we have too many. We have too many right now. And they have little bugs in them sometimes, so I definitely am not just going to bite into one. So anyway, I took some cuttings of the plum tree, which the plums are not ready yet, unfortunately. So we don't have plums yet, but we have a lot of apricots. So I took some cuttings of those two trees to try to see if I could propagate them, just because I would like to figure out how to do it. I tried very spur of the moment to propagate some rose bushes in the front of my house, but I failed horribly because I decided to do it right when it just started getting super dry. In California, summer is like the absolute dry season. It does not rain like at all. Actually, from here on out, I'm in pretty much 100-degree weather every day, so maybe it wasn't a great time to try to propagate again. But I've seen some more information about propagation recently. I don't have rooting hormone, which could be a problem, but I'm just going with it. So you can kind of clip off a bunch of the leaf matter, and that's pretty important because you don't want your leaves to just dry out, which I had totally happen on the rose bushes that I just kind of like plopped the stems into the front and tried to water them a lot, but again, that did not work. So you can clip off a lot of leaf matter, and then you can put like a bag over the cup as kind of like a mini greenhouse to keep the moisture in, because keeping the moisture in is very important. So yeah, I did that for apricot, plum, apricot, and again, I tried it with a couple of rose cuttings as well. So we'll see if these take or not. Just a little test. I'm also trying to grow. I've been picking up all of these seeds from the neighborhood whenever I go on walks, because some fruits are starting to drop. So there's like different types of plums in the area. So I've been like taking the pits from the ground, from the sidewalk, and I have a couple of those in my fridge, stratifying. So we'll see if I can grow some fruit trees. I'd really like to. I had some fruit tree seedlings from my old house that I'd kept alive, and then when they got here, they just died. I had a grapefruit and I had a kiwi, I think. Oh, and I had a pineapple guava, and all three of those died. I think they might have been getting too much sun, and I just didn't keep enough of an eye on them. So, anyway, I think I'm actually going to go out and water now, so I can bring my camera and bring you along for that now. Hi, Clover. Hi. Oh. Hi. So now that it's quite hot in summer, like midsummer basically, I know it's just been the solstice, but it is, getting quite hot. It's mid-90s to 100. And I've been watering pretty late in the evening just to make sure that it doesn't all evaporate right away. So I've been watering at like 8 p.m. So yeah, I go out and I try to take care of everything. I may have a little bit more than I can handle in the middle of the summer, because I also just transformed my front yard into basically a bunch of wood chips with little plants dispersed into it. And none of those plants are very well established yet. So I'm watering all these tiny little plants, and I'm like, I really hope you become a squash soon. because I don't want it to have been a big mistake, But hopefully I'll see something soon. I think I have like one zucchini plant that I worked on pretty early, putting it into the ground. And so I think that one's the biggest one that I have right now. And I also have some amaranth. I have some amaranth that is also getting kind of big. So hopefully we get some nice, big, beautiful plants. On the side here, this side yard is kind of where I've exploded out from the raised beds, which is, kind of like the bulk of my garden, really. So I have a couple of squash plants and some sunflowers and some corn, but all of this is still ramping up and none of it's actually producing yet. So I'm really excited to see what I get, because I did plant some sunflowers a little bit too early, and I also had started them in cups in my old house on the windowsill, and they don't really like being transplanted. So they were pretty dinky little flowers. So anyway, I really enjoy and cherish my outdoor garden time as kind of a good reflection, and it's a good way to spend the end of the day. I also picked some arugula seed pods. My arugula went to seed massively, and so I'm going to try those out. And anyway, as always, thanks for watching.